It's actually a little bit easier if you build a data frame of the result. Then printing the data frame is easier. Okay, the same example, if you use data frame, okay, so I'm going to copy paste this. Okay. Let's copy the whole thing. Now instead of building sprintf, so here instead of this, okay, so we're going to do we're going to build df. Okay, so what we need to do is to first set up an initial df. So let me call this out df. Okay, data frame. Okay, so we give a name of the column and the type of the column. Okay, so the first column is going to be value, and that is integer. And then the second column's name is negatives. Okay, that's also an integer. The integer should have like that. And the third column is zeros, integer. And fourth column is positives, POS is integer. And then the last column is root, and that's floating point, so we call it double. Okay, so that's going to set up an empty data frame. Okay, so with those values, now what we can do is set up a new row. Okay, so this is A here. Okay, we'll remove the formatting. Okay, and then say that we're going to create a vector. Okay, so the vector will have, vector is going to have the value, number of negatives, and then running count of negatives, count of zero, count of positive, and the root. So that will be the A, and instead of write lines, what we're going to do is so we're going to insert it. Okay, there are a couple of ways in which you can do this. So out df, okay, all right. Okay, so now we're going to do n row out df. So it's going to give us this function, this code, n row out df will give you the current number of rows. Right now, if there are no rows, it's going to give you 0. If it has 3 rows already, it's going to give you 3. So we want to insert this vector after the current rows. So you say +1. Okay, so out df n rows. Okay, here it should be like that. Okay, and then comma. So the new row, which is at the bottom, and then all columns, and then you set that equal to the vector. Okay. Now you don't need that then, so all right. So now we print the out df. Okay. So you don't have to mess with all these formats if you build it up in a data frame. Now, there are a couple of other ways in which you can build data frame. Okay. So, if you instead of a vector, if you make that into a data frame, then you can just put it below it with rbind. So, there are two functions which are very important. Rbind is row bind. So, if you have same number of columns, you can just put it underneath rbind. Cbind is column bind. It will just insert new columns to the existing data frame. So, okay.